Before this video gets underway, I would just like to say that yes, we will be making more videos on both the Penguins and the Leafs as the days go on. Big shout out to Al, the guy who's been asking me to make a Pittsburgh blow it up video. This, of course, is not that kind of video, but my buddy Al, we will be making that video soon, so bear with me here. But this video and this topic is something that when I heard about while watching the Real Kyper at Noon podcast live as it premiered was something that I thought was extremely interesting. So I wanted to make a video about it here today and discuss it all with you on the channel. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about Real Kyper at Noon. If you're not checking out this show, it goes on live every single day at noon Eastern Standard Time. It means it's 9 a.m. over here on the West Coast, but I kind of just look at the episodes a little bit later in the day because I'm not usually awake at 9 a.m., but this show goes on every single day. Nick Kypreos hosts the show. He's also joined by Doug McLean. They do some really good hockey talks, and honestly, Nick Kypreos is a guy who I personally enjoy listening to. So if you're like me and you didn't hate listening to this guy on Sportsnet, then I'd recommend you actually check out the show because it's a very interesting watch. But at the 19-minute mark of episode 18, which aired on August 10th, Monday, there was a very, very interesting discussion that Nick Kypreos brought on. On the show, they were talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, as Toronto-based sports journalists do, and they were talking about the Leafs' meltdown, the overall loss to the Blue Jackets, and what's next for Toronto. Again, we're going to be making our own version of this video soon. We're going to talk about what's next with Toronto, if they should blow the team up, who's going to go out, who's going to get traded, all that stuff. But Nick Kypreos had this to say specifically about the goaltending situation. I think we see a different goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, someone whispered to me yesterday, keep an eye out for Matt Murray for Frederik Andersen. Pittsburgh, of course, has Matt Murray. They've got issues. The Leafs probably not that comfortable with Frederik Andersen. How about that trade 1-for-1? Now, obviously, we should all take this with a grain of salt because it is just a trade idea. But the fact that it's coming from Nick Kypreos and not some random guy on Twitter who's claiming to know stuff is valuable to me. And it's valuable enough, in my opinion, that I wanted to make a video about it. So this video is ultimately asking, could we see a Matt Murray for Frederik Andersen trade anytime soon? Now, why would either team want to do this? Let's go over both sides, both stories, and dissect where everything meets in the middle later on. The Toronto Maple Leafs have Frederik Andersen, a Danish goaltender who has spent the majority of the past few seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Nick Kypreos highlighted it in the show as well, but Frederik Andersen has 1 year left at $5 million. By the time that contract finishes, he'll be 31 years old, and there is no way that he is going to want a short-term 1-2 year deal. Frederik Andersen's a guy who's most likely going to retire off of the money on his next contract after this one expires. So he's going to want to go along, he's going to want to go 5, 6, 7 years, and he's going to want a big number. It's just all the uncertainties in Toronto with the team not winning, with the team not producing. Even though Frederik Andersen has been good, a stinker or two in Game 5 combined with the team's inability to score is what sent them home. Well, not really home, they were already in Toronto, but you get the idea. The fact is, the Maple Leafs are in need of a shakeup, and everybody has been talking about that. And with the discomfort that could arise from having a goaltender who does not have job security next season on a team that already needs a big shakeup, is there the possibility that this guy gets his name out there on the trade market sometime soon? Over on the Pittsburgh Penguins side, Matt Murray is no longer what most Penguins fans would consider to be the guy anymore. Murray is 26 years of age, he is an RFA to be, and he's going to be in need of a contract. The problem is, his contract and his contract negotiations may not be as demanding as they would have been in the past. This is because Matt Murray is no longer the guy in Pittsburgh. He was the guy who previously helped them win 2 Stanley Cups as a rookie, and for a good portion of the previous few seasons was the guy after Fleury left. The problem is, the Penguins have not won too many of their recent playoff games, and Matt Murray has been the guy at the helm. Furthermore, Tristan Jarry's emergence as a very good NHL caliber goalie on the Penguins as well has somewhat made Matt Murray's job a little bit more expendable. The numbers this past season all point to Matt Murray being the worst goaltender of the two, and even though he was the worst goaltender of the two, he was still the guy who played against Montreal, and they lost. So with the whole RFA goaltender situation in Pittsburgh, is there an opportunity that the goalie who used to be the guy hands over the torch in Pittsburgh, whether that be to Jarry or to any other goaltender who could be traded back for in a package? Frederik Andersen is the idea over here. And when discussing this idea on the podcast, Kypreos acknowledged that even though both of these guys can be very good goaltenders, it's just evident that both of them need a change of scenery. This is one of those things where people see two players in similar situations and automatically assume, okay, they need a change of scenery, let's trade him 1 for 1. Remember, this same thing happened with Jesse Puljujarvi and Elias Anderson. Everybody said, okay, trade them 1 for 1. That should be a very good idea, right? Well, it's kind of the same thing here with Andersen and Murray. If the Pittsburgh Penguins want a little bit more job security going into the future, and by the future I mean the very short-term future, maybe trading for a Frederik Andersen who has 1 year left could be a valuable idea. As for the Maple Leafs, because they need a little bit of a change of scenery, and because of their own discomfort with having a pending UFA for next season on their roster, why not trade for a Matt Murray, who has been a proven winner as well, 2 Stanley Cups previously, sign him to a short 2-3 year deal, and have him as the guy in Toronto while you sort out the rest of what would be a complete reform. Now, because this idea involves 2 very heavily contested individuals amongst 2 very deep and passionate fan bases, I would not be surprised if this comment section gets completely flamed with, okay, this is why the Leafs should not do it, this is why the Penguins shouldn't do it, why should the Penguins go after a good goalie when they already have Jarry? That guy's already really good, he's shown that he can control the pace. As for the Leafs, you would be resetting the entire clock by having a short-term deal with Matt Murray. You are uncomfortable with having Frederik Andersen's deal expire next year? Well, what's the benefit in putting that off for a year from now with the same kind of situation in Matt Murray? But to be honest, the idea is more than just that. It's more than just numbers, years, money, and goaltender wars. It's mostly about just giving these 2 guys a change of scenery that, in the long run, can benefit their performances for the teams that they play on. And that is something that you can't really measure with draft picks and value and all that stuff. It's more intrinsic. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring this up today, because the whole Toronto Maple Leafs reform thing with all the players that are discussed in trade ideas now, it's gotten huge. And with the whole Matt Murray, Jarry thing that's also going on in Pittsburgh, I'm honestly kind of surprised it took this long to have these 2 stories intertwine in this way, and leave it to Nick Kypreos to be the guy who brings it all up. So now that it's set in stone as something that was said on air, I wanted to ask you the question here. Would you see value in a Frederik Andersen Matt Murray trade? 1 for 1, that's it. No strings attached, no picks, no prospects, no nothing. Just a plain old hockey trade, 1 for 1. Because to me, I could understand the idea as to why it would make sense. I just don't personally know if either team would actually want to do that. Mostly for the reasons that we discussed as quote-unquote rebuttals to the idea a few seconds ago. But obviously, I can still see the value as to why it would make sense. So, talk to me in the comments below what you think about this idea, Andersen for Murray. If you agree with it, let me know why. If you disagree with it, tell me why too. Because if you disagree with it, then I want you to rebuttal with what your own trade proposal would be, if you even have a trade proposal at all. Because if somebody goes out there saying, okay, there's no reason to trade Andersen, he was not the problem for this Leafs team, then I could totally understand why you would say that. It's just, I would love to hear different opinions here, and I know, because we have a YouTube channel of 16,000 subscribers, so thank you so much all for that, by the way. I can understand that there would be so many differing opinions on this, so let me know in the comment section below on that. As well with Matt Murray too. Matt Murray has his own situation. The whole Jarry Murray thing is crazy in Pittsburgh, and it was amplified even more with the Penguins' loss to the Habs. And of course, shout out to Al, we're also going to be doing a Penguins blow it up kind of video sometime within the next few days, so be on the lookout for that too. But for now, comment down below what you thought about this idea here, Murray for Andersen. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.